Welcome to DRM News Global. Well, the Sean Diddy Combs trial, it just keeps unfolding, doesn't it? More and more information seems to be coming out.
It really does. And today, we're going to focus on what happened in court yesterday. That was May 19th, 2025, the start of week 2. Some pretty significant testimony.
Right, so we've looked through the news reports, the summaries of the day, and also some of the background claims that keep popping up.
Exactly. The idea is to, give you a clear sense of these latest developments. What are the key allegations now? What did these specific witnesses say without getting bogged down in all the legal speak?
Just the crucial stuff, basically.
Yeah, a way to grasp what's going on.
Okay, so let's start with Dawn Richard. People might know her from Danity Kane. Her testimony yesterday seemed pretty focused on Combs and Cassie Ventura.
That's right. Richard testified she saw Combs being violent towards Ventura, and she used the word frequently, so that's, quite a statement.
Frequently. Wow.
Yeah.
That definitely seems to align with some of the main accusations in this trial.
It does. And she also said she advised Ventura to leave the relationship, which suggests, she was genuinely concerned about what she was seeing.
But she didn't intervene herself. She addressed that, right?
Yes, she did. She explained she didn't step in because, well, she was afraid. Afraid for her own safety.
That says a lot about the kind of atmosphere she's describing, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
But yeah.
And she also talked about why she didn't speak up sooner. Apparently, she testified that both Combs and Harv Pierre, who used to be the president of Bad Boy Records, told her to keep quiet.
Instructed her.
Yeah.
So potential efforts to kind of control the narrative there.
Seems like it could point that way, yeah. What's also quite interesting is she said Ventura herself was the one who inspired her to finally speak out now, maybe suggesting a change, in how people feel about sharing their stories.
Okay. And Richard also talked about Combs' alleged drug use.
Yeah, she did. She testified she saw him using weed, ketamine, and cocaine quite often. But she was specific. She said she didn't see him use opiates.
Okay. So that fits with some other things we've heard floating around.
Possibly. And, this alleged drug use, it could be seen as context for some of the other allegations of violence, maybe those freak-off encounters Ventura described. Richard also mentioned hearing Combs talk about Ventura's career.
All right.
And that sometimes these talks would get violent, but then he'd apparently promise her career would move forward, just, on his schedule.
So highlighting that power dynamic again, even professionally.
Exactly. And she described the physical side, too. Seeing Ventura with injuries, face, arms, legs, after these alleged incidents with Combs.
And that Ventura tried to hide them.
Yeah, with clothes, makeup, sunglasses. It creates a very vivid image, doesn't it? Someone trying to cover up what's happening.
Yeah, it really does. It adds that visual element to the claims of abuse. It's just the pattern, maybe.
Could do. Okay, so moving on from Dawn Richard. The jury also heard from Carrie Morgan. Now, she was described as a friend of Ventura's for, a really long time.
Right, from 2001 to 2018, I think. But the friendship ended.
Yeah, it did. And Morgan testified it ended after Combs allegedly assaulted her back in 2018, which, led to the break with Ventura.
So another person claiming Combs assaulted them directly. That's significant.
It is. And Morgan gave details. She alleged Combs choked her, hit her with a wooden hanger, said she got a concussion, felt dizzy, vomited. I mean, these are really serious claims.
Definitely. And then there was money involved.
Yeah.
An NDA.
Yes. She testified Combs sent her $30,000, and she signed a non-disclosure agreement about the assault. The defense did question if maybe Ventura delivered the money, but Morgan stuck to her story. NDAs aren't uncommon in settlements, of course. They aim to keep things quiet.
But what really jumped out at me was Morgan saying Combs wasn't intoxicated or high during the assaults she saw, the ones against Ventura and the alleged one against herself.
Exactly. That's a key point, because it potentially undermines any argument that, his behavior was just down to substance abuse.
Suggests it was more calculated, perhaps.
That's what it could imply, yes. Morgan also talked about how Ventura seemed to change over the years, said she was really confident when they first met, but seemed to sort of lose that confidence by 2018.
And Morgan attributed that to Combs.
Yeah, she testified it was because of Combs allegedly criticizing how Ventura looked, how she acted, who she talked to, really paints a picture of potential, emotional control.
It's quite chilling how someone's confidence could apparently be worn down like that.
Yeah.
Morgan also said she tried to get Ventura to go to the police, right? After that hotel incident in 2016.
She did. She encouraged her. But Ventura's reason for not wanting to involve the police is very telling.
What'd you say?
According to Maureen's testimony, Ventura said he controlled everything.
Wow. Everything.
And Morgan explained what that meant. Her job, her car, her apartment. Basically, her whole livelihood was tied up with him. It really reinforces that feeling of being trapped that Ventura herself reportedly felt.
And it also seems like Morgan's own alleged assault created a rift between her and Ventura.
Yeah, Morgan testified the friendship ended because she felt Ventura wasn't supportive after Combs allegedly assaulted her. So you see these really complicated, messy dynamics playing out.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. David James, Combs' former assistant, his testimony started the day before, right? And continued yesterday. Sounds like he worked pretty closely with Combs.
Yeah, daily basis for work, traveled a lot with him. He did mention something interesting, though, being told by Combs security to stay in my lane, especially about asking questions.
Suggests a tight ship. Limited access.
Kind of feels that way, yeah. He also talked about a conversation he had with Ventura, said she described the whole lifestyle as crazy.
And he suggested she leave.
He did. But her response, according to James, was, I can't get out. Which just echoes what Carrie Morgan said, doesn't it? That feeling of being stuck, because Combs allegedly controlled her career, her apartment, her allowance.
That's a recurring theme, this feeling of being trapped.
Definitely. And James mentioned another conversation, too, this time in a cab going to Sundance Film Festival. He remembered Ventura being really excited, super happy about an album she was working on. But Drew said he doesn't remember that album ever actually coming out, which, could maybe hint at Combs' influence over her work.
Potentially another form of control. And wasn't there something James said about how Combs described Kim Porter versus Cassie Ventura?
Yes, this was quite striking. He recounted a business associate asking Combs about both women. Combs apparently called Porter his queen, a term of respect, affection.
Okay, and Ventura?
James testified Combs described Ventura as moldable, and even allegedly said, quote, I got her right where I want her, she's young.
Moldable, wow, that's incredibly telling, if true.
It really is. It speaks volumes about a potential power dynamic, right?
Yeah.
Viewing someone not as an equal partner, but as something to be shaped, controlled, which sadly is a theme we hear about sometimes in these kinds of situations, especially in industries with big power imbalances like music.
Okay, so that's a pretty heavy summary of the key testimonies from yesterday. But there's also stuff happening outside the courtroom, right? Older claims resurfacing, the broader context.
Absolutely. I mean, the trial's happening now, May 2025, but it's dealing with alleged events from the past. And the charges themselves are extremely serious.
Remind us what they are again.
Sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, and transportation to engage in prostitution. And if he were convicted on everything, the potential sentence is huge, up to life in prison. So the stakes are incredibly high.
And we've definitely noticed this trend, haven't we? The celebrities kind of backing away from Combs since all this intensified.
Yeah, people like Steve Harvey, Usher, Megan Fox. Reports say they've been adjusting their social media, maybe removing old posts or pictures.
The Steve Harvey example is quite specific, isn't it? That deleted tweet about the Howard University donation.
Right. A 2017 tweet praising the donation. And then, of course, Howard University itself revoked Combs' honorary doctorate and gave the money back. That's a very public statement, a clear severing of ties.
And speaking of the Harvey family, there's been renewed chatter about Lori Harvey, Steve's stepdaughter, and those old rumors linking her to Diddy around 2019, after he split with Ventura.
Yeah, those rumors are back in the conversation. They were seen together publicly quite a bit then, remember? Trips to Italy, things like that.
And didn't the rumors also involve Diddy's son, Justin Combs, somehow?
They did touch on that, yeah. But Lori Harvey herself actually shot that down pretty firmly back in 2023. Said the idea she dated both father and son was absolutely not true.
Okay. So that brings us to Gina Hunn. Her name has come up again recently, with people looking back at claims she made years ago.
Yes, her 2020 interview with Tasha K specifically, it's resurfaced, and some are saying it has this chilling clarity now, given everything that's come out in the trial. She described a 5-year relationship with Combs that sounded, well, pretty volatile.
What were her main allegations back then?
She talked about violence, lies, betrayal, really serious physical assault claims like being stomped on until she couldn't breathe. Also emotional abuse, particularly, she said, after she had an abortion. And she claimed Combs told her their relationship was exclusive, but then she found out about other women.
Did she name names?
She did. Jordan, Jocelyn, Kat. And she also mentioned Lori Harvey in that context. Hine described being at the same house as Combs and Lori Harvey during a Super Bowl weekend in Atlanta, which made her suspicious.
And she felt like Lori Harvey was kind of replacing her.
That's what she claimed, yeah. Said Lori Harvey started showing up at Combs' family events, private parties, and when Tasha K asked specifically about Justin Combs and Lori Harvey, Hun was a bit careful but said she knew Justin was, quote, trying to talk to her that same weekend.
So people are now connecting Hine's story from 2020 with Cassie Ventura's allegations in the current trial, seeing parallels.
Exactly. The reports are highlighting the similarities, the alleged violence, the manipulation, that sense of being controlled. It seems Hun's older claims are now being seen by some as adding to this broader pattern, providing more context for what the jury is hearing right now.
And just to be clear, Combs has pleaded not guilty to everything, right? And he's being held without bail.
Correct, on both counts. Not guilty pleas across the board, and he's currently detained. And this trial, it's expected to go on for a while, at least 8 weeks, maybe longer. So definitely more to come.
So if we just wrap up yesterday's key points for you listening, we heard Don Richard and Carrie Morgan give accounts that seemed to corroborate Ventura's claims of violence. We heard more about this reported feeling Ventura had of being trapped, controlled by Combs.
And David James's testimony seemed to reinforce that, especially that really unsettling comment he alleges Combs made about Ventura being moldable.
Plus, we have these resurfaced claims from Gina Hun adding another layer, and the wider context of people distancing themselves. It all contributes to this complex picture surrounding Sean Combs right now. It really does.
It definitely makes you pause and think, doesn't it? How do all these personal stories from the trial, from the past, how do they help us understand these power dynamics, maybe even abuse, particularly within an industry like entertainment?
It's a really important question, and it's something that, as this trial unfolds and we get more information, we really need to keep considering. These aren't just headlines. They're about people's lives and the systems they operate within.
We absolutely agree. We hope you'll continue to follow DRM News Global as we track the developments in the Sean Diddy Combs trial. We'll keep bringing you the key information and trying to make sense of it all.